Thank you. Thank y'all. It's good to see everybody again. All my friends I used to work with back in the good old days and private industry days. So welcome back to the Capitol. We're glad you're here. You're really important in what we're going to do in Mississippi. So I started asking you for surveys. What's important to you? What do you want us to do? What can we bring to the legislature for them to address? And when I did that, I started getting feedbacks. And the first ones y'all sent me were 1,800 of them replied. These are LLCs and corporations. These are you, the ones that write the fronts of checks, hire people, employ people in Mississippi. So you all went through this process, and then I asked you for another survey and another, and the fourth survey, 5,600 of you replied. 5,600 corporations and limited liability companies replied to this survey. And what we were looking at was to try to quantify what we need to address. And Andrea and the governor have been working on things that you'll see right here, your voice back to us. First one, please, ma'am. When we first started, if you can see that, we asked you what was the most important thing. It was an educated workforce. If you could look, there's two, there's one on either side there. It's an educated workforce. And the second thing that was most needed by Mississippi businesses was a community support. And you'll notice with some entrance all the way down to number 9 was a lawyer. So I'm just telling you, lawyers' places. I used to be one. I'm a recovering lawyer, and I noticed they placed 9th here, which is probably okay. But anyway, financial services and whatnot, Dan, were in there. And if you look all the way there, educated workforce and community support, the ones on the left are LLCs, the ones on the right are corporations. Green LLCs, red are corporations. So if you go to the next one, this is in December of 17. Then, if you had an educated workforce, would you expand in Mississippi? This is something the governor's been talking about forever. Yes, 60% of you, if you had somebody who would work for you that was part of your educated workforce, you'd hire them today. And that shows in the governor's Mississippi Works program and the thousands and tens of thousands of jobs that are open. So then we kept going. We kept asking you questions. What qualities are the most important in an educated workforce? So let's start to hone down. I need an educated workforce. I'm willing to hire somebody. What are you looking for? And this information came here in May 2018. And you can see it's honesty, integrity, timeliness, communication skills. Those were the most important. Technical skills were the fourth. So what you're telling us, the people that are in the legislative branch and the executive branch, you're telling us, look, these are the skills we need. You give us these skills and we'll train our own people. And you have started doing that in time after time, over 100 different workforce training from different societies and groups of, and professions that are starting that process. Next one, please, ma'am. So you see here, how much have you participated in an educated workforce? If you could participate in K-12, have you done so? We found very few of us were doing that. Very few of our Mississippi businesses were doing that. Next one, please, ma'am. So we came back to you. Have you connected? This is 3 weeks old. This is the 5,600 businesses. So what I'm giving you has a standard deviation of about 1. This is what people in Mississippi, this is what you as a business person believe. LLCs, again, on the left, a blue would be your corporate structure. Have you connected with the CTE? Now, Andrea and the rest of them have been working really hard, Laurie and the rest of them, continuing technical education. Have you connected with them? And we find ourselves, no. This will change. This number, this 70% number will flip to the other 30%. And without that, as you'll see, you won't find your educated workforce. They're there, you just need to ask them. So when a group, Katie McCreary called me from Columbus, I went up to Columbus. She wanted us to moderate between a group of businesses and the school. They're just building a new career technical institute there. Would we come up, 50 companies showed up. And they brought with them, this is what I'll hire, this is what we want to do. And one of the individuals in the school said, I didn't know y'all needed this. If you would have called me, I would have started work on this. And one of the businessmen at the other side said, your schools are not giving us what we need in an educated workforce. And I thought, we need to get these people together. You know, they're talking in different silos here. So we did. And when you see this right here, have you connected? That's where your workforce is. We're at virtually full employment. The governor's got it at 4-point-something% employment. Your workforce is in those high schools. The ones that go and participate in public education in those schools are getting the opportunity to get first choice of those young men. Katie had 8 of them out to, she runs a construction company up there. They had 8 of them work around, and of course the top 2 that were most interested, they offered them a job. So they're getting the good employees right out of school. That 10th, 11th, and 12th grade is coming. Next one, please, ma'am. What is the average age of your employees? In corporations, over 50% of us are over 45. The national average is 42. But in Mississippi, and corporations, over 50% are over 45 years old here. So it used to be, maybe 10 years ago, we were in the high 30s, and now we see we've graduated out to over 45. We have an aging workforce to some degree here. Next one. What would be most helpful in determining whether a high school graduate become a successful employee? Look at that. It didn't register on GPA. It didn't register on what their high school grades were. It registered on whether or not they had integrity, honesty, and communication skills. It's not even close. It's like 75, 80%. How are you going to judge your new employee? That's how you judge them. Not so much whether they had a high ACT test. As you know, we all take the ACT test in 11th grade now. Whether they had a high ACT test doesn't really matter if they had the other skills. You were willing to work with them. Very interesting to me, where we emphasize what we're working on with our workforce. Next one, please, ma'am. Are you willing to consider training an applicant who has been a convicted nonviolent felon? Now, I'll tell you, 20 years ago, this would have been different. Look at that. Over 50% of Mississippi LLCs and corporations would hire a nonviolent felon today. They're looking for people who maybe have been out of the workforce, or chronically unemployed, or in this instance, maybe even in prison. They'll bring them, they'll hire those people. You're willing to take that step to give them a second chance. So we need to bring them to you with some type of skill that you can then multiply and bring forward. More than half of you in Mississippi. Very interesting, and particularly in light of what the governor's done on criminal justice reform. What comes, if you had anybody else to call today, what would they apply? And you can see what incentives are you willing to give. These incentives were all over the board, but rarely did we have more than 50% of you give health care. Of course, one of the most expensive ones, you can see overtime vacation pay, but as you see, the percentages are all less than 50%. In Mississippi, when you get a job, and again, the left ones are LLCs, the right ones are corporations, you can see that many times in our LLCs, we do not offer health care. Those are changing as well, as we have a tighter market and employees are looking for companies that provide them those additional benefits. One of those, carpooling, baby services, that kind of things, where they have child care. Those things are starting to multiply in Mississippi, where they haven't in the past. But still, we're less than 50% at that, and you can see that in the numbers. Next one, please, ma'am. I think that's the last one. Is that the last one for us, Leah? Good. We do these surveys so that you will have a voice without having to leave your desk. They're usually 8 questions. We'll be doing another set of these in the spring. It's a way for you to communicate with me on what I need to be doing in drafting business laws and whatnot, and also to be communicating with the legislature on what your assistance is. It's a clear voice for you. We intend to continue these as we go forward. I want you to know, without question, the leaders where Mississippi is going economically are sitting in here. The Mississippi Economic Council, your membership and your participation in our governing is critical. Where you start to participate in the education process is where you will continue to prosper. I encourage each of you to contact your high schools, talk to your community colleges, get those two together, talking about what your workforce is and when you need those people to come out and with what skills. With that recommendation, you will prosper. Your company will prosper. There's self-interest here, but when you do, we all do. Thank y'all so much for having me here today. Have a great meeting. Enjoy your capital.